Get ready. He is the custodian of the highest values created and cherished by the people. He is the transmitter of these values to his students. If he does not experience these high qualities himself, if he does not feel the importance of these values, I am sorry, he is in a wrong place. If he can't act as a guiding friend to his students, he should be considered to have missed his vocation. I may be allowed to emphasize another important factor to the parents of boys and girls studying in this school. It is the usually forgotten fact that education is the joint venture of the teacher, the pupil, and his parents. It is essential for the success of the educational process that the parents and guardians know and understand what the school seeks to do and to actively cooperate in it. Lastly, a word to the students: you are fortunate in studying in this school. The teachers will help and guide you, but the adventure of education is essentially yours. It is you and you alone who can discover your inner capacity for hard work. You must develop this capacity to achieve something high and honorable. Sir, after this long, useful, and constructive debate of 20 hours, I must express my gratefulness to those members who have participated in this debate. The debate has disclosed two types of arguments. One is the line of argument based on the examination of economic policies and objectives. The second category of argument is based purely on party lines and thus negative in its approach. I mainly propose to deal with the first category of arguments, which went into the examination of some economic policies and objectives, which are really important. In my budget speech, I have clearly stated that I have not been able to achieve all the objectives that I have set before me. I have not made any big claim in my budget speech, but at the same time, if the honorable members would take pains to read my speech, they will see for themselves that I have categorically stated the objectives and the directions in which we want to go. From the debate, I was able to find that there was some amount of agreement in regard to the basic approach to the economic policies. I know that there is criticism about taxation. If you go into the individual or particular levies, there can be views for and against. But if we generally look at the problems that we have to face and tackle in this country, it will ultimately be found that there is no other alternative. As far as I am concerned, I can say that I have conscientiously gone through each and every item and tried to analysis effect. Unfortunately, as the tax structure stands today, the indirect tax is our major source of income. Naturally, therefore, it has to cover a large number of items. However, while selecting these items, I have taken great care to see that the lower strata, the lower income group, the poor man, is not touched as much as possible. I think it is agreed on all sides that we have to accelerate the pace of the growth. It is also generally agreed at the same time that we must ensure that the benefits reach primarily the underprivileged and unemployed. These are the general principles which were very lucidly expounded by one of the members this morning. As far as those good principles are concerned, I think there is no doubt that though these are the lines on which we have ultimately to examine ourselves and also best ourselves with regard to our performance. Sir, it is no doubt true that our social and economic objectives can't be achieved by the budgetary process alone. I quite agree that the budget is a powerful instrument in this respect. I have tried to make use of it as much as possible. In any case, you can't do it with a single budget. Possibly, you have a wait for a series of budget for the achievement of all our objectives. I must say that the members are entitled to ask whether the budget proposals will take the economy in the right direction or not. It is certainly legitimate for me that I should answer 2 points, namely whether the budget will promote growth and whether at the same time it will promote the objective of social justice. I would now confine my remarks to these two criteria. The way in which a budget can promote growth is by providing for substantial increase in developmental outlays. Nothing would be easier for a finance minister to present a budget without taxes. But what about the huge expenditure to be incurred for the number of plans envisaged in the various sectors for the welfare of the masses of this country? Are we not to execute those plans and bring happiness to the people whose representatives we are? I think honorable members will readily agree that those plans have to be implemented as quickly as possible, and the necessary expenditure will have to be incurred for the purpose. For this specific purpose, it is imperative on the part of any government to find the financial resources. I would now like to refer to the other criticism raised by some members. Some of them have observed that there was no incentive for savings. Well, I have read and heard this argument. For decades, it was the usual argument advanced against the government from time to time. The government are doing whatever is possible to mop up the savings from all categories. In this, the valuable cooperation of all sections of people is not forthcoming, I should say not readily forthcoming to the extent we needed. So there is no use of blaming the government in season and out of season on this matter. Coming to prices of essential articles. We have discussed this subject many times. Even during the question hour, this problem had been raised, and the government have given their replies to the many supplementary questions put by the members. We have explained at length the various reasons for this price and the steps that we have been taking in the past to arrest it. It is a continuous affair and it has not started just this year. However, let us hope that as a result of the effective steps that we have taken these, there will be a check on the further rise in prices, and before long the prices will come down. There was some reference about the nutrition program for children. Fortunately, due to administrative delay, the work was started late last year. But we have taken adequate measures this year to ensure the implementation of the scheme well in time. I think I have covered most of the points raised by the members. If some points have not been covered in my reply, let them not go with the impression that they will not be considered. I assure them that their suggestions will be taken note of and action will be initiated wherever impossible to implement them. Speaking on the demand for grant for railways in the Lok Sabha, an honourable member said, Mr. Speaker, sir, let me congratulate the Minister of Railways on presenting an optimistic picture to this House regarding the functioning of the railways in the country. We were also happy to hear the Honourable Minister saying that not only there was a surplus and no increase in the railway fee, but there was an improvement in the efficiency of the railways. I only hope and trust that this spirit will continue in future also. On this occasion, I would like to make some general observations about the functioning of the railways. First of all, I feel that the railways should go in for more modern techniques of management. Whenever the railways are losing and there is a deficit, unfortunately the tendency had been to fill the gap by increasing the fares immediately. Of course, I agree that the railway minister has not done that this year, but I would appeal to him that all aspects of management should be looked into. Instead of looking into the aspects of management and the ways of avoiding wasteful expenditure and affecting savings, the tendency is always to increase the fares. We should recognize that the railways are one of the biggest institutions in the country. I would say that there are one of the biggest public sector undertakings in Asia. In these circumstances, I submit that they have to adopt modern techniques of management for effecting savings and for more efficient running of the railways. Secondly, I don't want to criticize the railway board at present, but I want to appeal to the Honourable Minister that there should be more decentralization of power. The general managers always feel that they can't do anything of their own accord. Whenever we meet them personally and ask them why they don't do this or that, they say that they will have to refer the matter to the railway board. I don't want to mention many specific cases, but I may say that this is the position in regard to the question of dieselization and other things. I am only making an appeal that instead of concentrating all powers in the board, there should be more decentralization of power and more power should be given to the general managers and below.